My name is Jahaira Salazar. I have worked at Amazon as a leadership coach for about 14 years now. I actually just celebrated my 14-year anniversary and have no idea where the time has gone. But it really was such a great, awesome ride so far. So I can't complain. I live in Phoenix, Arizona currently, and I'm a huge Disney adult. Not that that's crazy relevant, but it does add and contribute to my personality. And it does kind of help you understand that you can be truthfully yourself in any role that you take on, even in a very professional setting. So I like to wear my Disney adulthood with pride, just because it's who I am. It's what I talk about, and it makes my interactions with people very fun. I'm here to actually talk to y'all about time management. And this is one of my favorite workshops to work on with all of you because I teach this to about 100 area managers at Amazon every other week. My role is awesome and unique in that I get to talk to leaders, give them advice, warn them against things that I've done in the past that haven't been the best in my career, give them the tools, tips, and tricks to put in their tool belt to be successful. And I love every moment of it. I have worked in a large portion of my career in learning and talent development. However, I was also in operations and worked all the warehouse things that you could imagine Amazon would entail. So I have a lot of experience outside of the learning and development aspect. You know, put my own feet to the fire and work through all of the things to get to where I am in my 14 years career. All of this to say that I am open to any questions before and after. I am welcoming Miguel to share my contact information with all of you so that if there is something that I do mention here in this workshop, or if there's something you would like to explore further, my email is always open and I'm always available to help because this is what I love to do and what I'm passionate about. The goal here for our time management workshop is not to resolve and solve all of your issues in time management. The goal for this workshop is to give you those tools and resources. Not everything works for everyone, so maybe one or two things that will help you and provide you some clarity. But it is a good workshop to help you gain clarity around where does your time go? How do you invest your time? How do you prioritize that time? And how do you work through that process of prioritizing essentially that tool in your tool belt? Um, I love doing workshops like this because I love interacting with people outside of the Amazon hemisphere and just talking to people who may be facing some of the similar issues that some of my managers and leaders face every single day. And the tools that I'm going to share are resources for everyone. So it's not going to be like Amazon specific tools or things that you can only get if you're working in a company already. These are all going to be things that are easy, but you have to put the action behind it. All of my workshops come with homework in that if you want these resources and these tools and tips and tricks to work for you, you have to invest that time into it. So there's that commitment piece as well. But it will be super helpful once you work through the activity and get through what we need to do. What we're going to do first is, as we are kind of thinking about time management in a large scale, I want us to put pen to paper. If the only thing you have in front of you is a computer, I want you to type it on a computer, but what I'm going to have us do first is just create a list for ourselves of our to-do things. What do we do from the minute we wake up to the minute we put our heads onto a pillow? What are those things? I'm going to give us about 3 or 4 minutes to just free write and create a to-do list for ourselves that we will use during this workshop at a later time. So again, the ask is you're just writing a list of things that you need to get done from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed at the end of the night, and just put that on paper or in a list format. All right, start wrapping up your final thoughts and writing those final things on your to-do list here. So as you're finishing up here, I want to make it super clear time management and the way that we utilize time and or how many tasks we add in our individual to-do list on any given day, week, or month is very independent to us. And so I started off with you creating your own independent to-do list so that we can make it applicable and make it easier to use at the end of this workshop. The goal here was to put as many of those real life things into your to-do list, and I didn't tie it to work, I didn't tie it to school, and I didn't tie it to anything specifically because that also shows what type of priorities you have in any given day, and nothing is wrong or right in this to-do list. And so This can also show you that whether you use this in your personal life or in your work life, this method does hold true and it does actually work. So let's talk about time management in general. We all have about 24 hours in any given day to actually utilize time and fill up our time however we so choose. Now, we can decide at that point, do we contribute a majority of our time to school? Do we contribute it to our independent livelihoods, to our friends, to our family? Do we add that time in for this paper that I'm supposed to write and is due 3 weeks away from now? All of that time and priority is human based, right? And so understanding that and understanding how much time we want and should allot to things is where we begin essentially with time management. Next, we're going to look at like the different tools that you could potentially use. Creating a to-do list at the beginning of your work day, the start of your week, or whenever you want to allot the time for time management is super helpful in that it helps you organize your thoughts, put pen to paper, understand at a glance what you can move and shift and things. And then it allows you to understand what type of tools you can use to manage those different pieces of time. The first thing you want to do is use available tools and techniques to manage how you use that time in particular. Where can you shave? Where can you cut time off? Does a task that takes you an hour every single time need to take you an hour? Are there ways and places that I can improve in my day-to-day processes? And that's going to be like your lower hanging fruit. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. The second is to identify what those time wasters are and what they are not, right? And so a lot of times when I'm talking to leaders and I ask them, what are some of your time wasters? The first response I'll get is like, oh, every once in a while I'll log into Instagram, or every once in a while I'll walk off the floor and just like find myself standing there, finding some peace, finding some quiet, right? And that's a time waster in my brain. The reality is that those times that you log into Instagram or TikTok or find yourself taking a walk or taking some space may not actually be a time waster depending on how you think of it and how much time you allot yourself to those things. The human brain is going to naturally look for things that are relaxing and or your typical normal breaks from your day. And so if you find yourself actually going into Instagram or TikTok or into an app on your phone when you should be writing that paper, when you should be doing the thing, it's your brain telling you to take a break. So what you want to do is understand, what kind of break do I need? Do I need a mental break? Do I need a physical break? Is this something that's weighing on myself? And understand how to place it and how much time to allot for it. Usually what I'll tell my area managers is if you need that break, that mental break or physical break, schedule that into your day. Allow yourself to have 10 minutes on Instagram because you're staring at your computer for a long period of time. And don't add that stigma to yourself that you're taking an Instagram break, right? Essentially make it a mental break, but then also have the ability to break away from that at the allotted time that you give yourself. I personally use a little stopwatch that is actually a circle, and I spin it and it has like a 10-minute alarm, it has a 15-minute alarm, a 20 and a 30. And so what I'll do is I'll take my tasks and I'll bucket them into times. I'll give myself about 30 minutes to actively work on a paper I'm writing on, and then I'll give myself 10 minutes of a puzzle break. I actually play this little like bubble game on my phone. So I'll give myself 10 minutes of just thinking about the little bubbles on my phone for that solid 10 minutes to give myself a break. I find usually that when I do that strategically and schedule what those breaks look like, I actually have more time to get back and re-energize myself for that paper that I'm writing or the task that is weighing very, very heavily on my brain. So understanding what a time waster is and what it is not is the first essential misconception of time management. When you go to do that other thing, or you go to stand up, or you're sitting in your table and you're getting antsy, understand yourself and be self-aware enough to say like, okay, this is a good breaking point. I need a snack. I need an eyeball break. I need to go take a walk. I need some sun. We need some sun every once in a while. So if you're not getting that, make sure you get your sun. And then the last piece, and this piece is individual per person, is delegating tasks effectively in order to manage the workload. When I say delegate tasks, a lot of times we think about who are my direct reports? Am I a manager? Am I a leader that I can give these tasks to? But the reality is you can delegate tasks to a significant other, a child, a sibling, a parent, right? Things like picking up a kid from school, things like walking the dog, right? Me and my husband have this unspoken rule where he's the one that feeds our dogs because that's the time when he takes his break in the morning. And so he'll go downstairs and he'll feed the dog during his break time, and that's his break for the day essentially. And then mine is I actually do the management at the end of the night where I put them to bed and all of that kind of fun stuff, because those are the processes that we prioritize more and we work into our day-to-day schedule to make into our breaks. So we delegate those tasks to each other. And then of course, times that I can't put the puppies to bed, I'm delegating that task to him, not in the form of delegation or saying I'm delegating, but asking for a favor. Delegating tasks doesn't have to mean, hey, I'm giving you this project. It could be simplified and in a smaller state where you take those tasks that maybe you can't get to, you just hand it off to someone else. Always an option, always something that you can put in your back pocket. Now, as we get further into time management itself, I want us to reflect a little bit. I have a quote here from Dwight D. Eisenhower that states, I have two kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent. And so, if we think about this quote, in essence, we have a leader, a very skilled leader, who is telling us that not everything is high priority. Shut the United States down. I have to work on this particular thing. I can't look at any other thing. And that's how priorities kind of come to us and how our tasks kind of come to us in any given day. That is very dependent, and what we mark as urgent versus important should be something that we are thinking about constantly. So as we move forward in our tasks, let's define what urgent is. Urgent means it requires immediate attention. You need to stop what you're doing, pay full attention to this thing. Must be completed ASAP or as soon as possible to avoid negative consequences. Something that you cannot move forward, or someone would either get hurt, there would be a huge loss or an aspect of a loss in that process. The next is the important. Important things may not require for you to stop, drop, and roll, to stop right now and do whatever you need to do on that thing. It could be added to your to-do list and scheduled either for the next hour, for the next 3 hours, or the next day. But understanding that something is important without that urgency tied to it gives you space in your timeline to add that in wherever you need to. It helps towards long-term goals. It allows you to schedule, and it uses resources efficiently to complete them. We are going to now take our to-do list. And what I would like us to do is I would like us to just put a quick note next to each one of our line items. We have 4 quadrants sitting in front of us. We have the do, schedule, delegate, and delete. And so basically what I'm going to have us do here is look at the to-do list we created earlier. And I want us to bucketize these things for ourselves. But let me add some context into each quadrant. In the do section here at the top left-hand corner, we have things that are urgent and equally important. Things that if they don't get done, have huge consequences, a safety injury, a loss of some sort. As we shift and we get lower in that quadrant, we have something that is urgent, but not important. Something that the tasks must get done and they are required in the skill set, but they don't necessarily have any importance in your day-to-day. Next, we have the not urgent and important things that you can schedule, things that I can probably either add to the beginning of my week, and or if I don't get to it, it's totally okay. I can reschedule it for a different time. And then we have the delete. And this one's a little bit harder for a lot of professionals to understand what can be deleted and not deleted. And so this is why I actually had you create a to-do list that was all your own and unique. This is for you to determine what are those things that like I don't necessarily need to do. Nothing is hindered on it. No one's going to die or be broken by the fact that I don't complete this task. What can I add into my delete? The last thing I want to add for this delete piece is delete doesn't mean forever. So if that means that texting your mom means I delete it for now, right? And I pick it back up on the weekend or not, it doesn't end up on my to-do list. That is totally okay. Delete does not mean forever. It means delete temporarily, remove them from your life in this instance or in this particular day or week, and then add it somewhere else if you need to. So as we are looking at our to-do list, I want us to write do, schedule, delegate, or delete next to each one of those line items that we created in our to-do list. And this is just a perspective activity. What would you put into the do column? What would you put in the delegate column? What would you put in schedule? And what would you put in delete? I'm going to give us about 2.5 minutes to do this. I will check in at 2.5 minutes and see if anyone needs more time. All right, you can continue to work on that if you so choose, but I will continue on for the sake of time. And I will give us a couple pieces of warning, a couple warning signs, if you will. When you are looking at your individual to-do list, I recommend going back to this list. And for every to-do list that you're kind of working through and trying to prioritize, go back to this actual quadrant section and figure it out in the urgent, not urgent. Sit with it. Think about what is the impact of my decision of moving something into delegate. Is there someone I can delegate these things to? Because sometimes we don't have someone that we can delegate our tasks to. So then how does that change things? And as you are continuing in your career, and I tell this to all of my area managers, when you are interacting with your leaders, show them this, show them the energy that you're putting into this to-do list at that point where you feel like you are super stressed, people are piling things onto you. This is a good way to show kind of how you prioritize things. Every leader in every organization is going to have a different way to prioritize, to group tasks together, to delegate things. And so bringing this thought process and this idea to your leaders, whoever your managers will or are or become, really helps set the tone of this is my level of preparation that I am for this team, for this role, for this org, whatever the case may be. But revisiting this often helps in that process of what is my role? What is importance in my role? What is my day to day? Where's the importance in my day to day? I heard someone during our intros talk about like those boundaries, life management with, or here at Amazon, we call it home life harmony. So we don't necessarily say balance, we say harmony. How do we put enough energy into the work that we do and the things that we love, the people that we work with, and the people that we interact with on a day to day, our family, our friends, all of the things? How do we manage all of the above and kind of put it together? And so, in different points in your life, these different categories will be different, right? If you're looking at a personal to-do list compared to a professional to-do list, if you separate those out, you'll see that your priorities should and can and will be different for each one. So attacking how much time, once you actually have them sectioned out like this, will help and contribute to you prioritizing your time. So now that you have things in your do, schedule, delegate, and delete, what I want you to think about is time commitment. For all the things that say delegate, those are things that you can hand off. That's 5, 10, 15 minutes shaved off of your day. You will have to add a minute or two to explain the thing to the person you're delegating it to. So don't pull time completely off of your to-do list because that communication does need to be there. But then you can start to look at your do and your schedule and your delete buckets a little bit differently. Those things that are in your scheduled bucket, look to see what of those things align with each other. If, say, for example, there's a task that happens in your kitchen, right? You look at all of the tasks that need to happen in your kitchen and project stack those together. So you stack all of the items that you can get done in a similar time. You put them together on your to-do list. When you're in the kitchen, you can work through getting all of those things together. Same thing for projects and things at work. If there's a particular task or topic that you are focusing on and the two projects or things align with each other, project stack those together. My brain waves are already moving in this goal or task. And so it's easier for me to do these two things together and understand what that looks like on my schedule. And then the reality is you can invest 20 minutes of your time on this goal or task when you would have in two separate tasks done maybe an hour and 20 minutes. So project stacking or goal stacking really helps with that prioritization part. And you can stack it however you so choose. Is it going to be in the same area? Is it the same topic? Are they both writing subjects? So find the similarities in what those tasks are so you can schedule them appropriately in your day. I work with a lot of area managers on site. So I will tell them that their priority is their engagement with their people. So I tell them to actually schedule that into the very beginning of their day, get that out of the way. This goes into one of you also mentions, like, how do I give myself the availability and the options to do those things that I don't necessarily like to do? I actually add project stacking as a tip for that as well, where I'll add one great activity that I love to do and gives me a whole lot of energy, and I'll do the one thing that sucks the energy out of me right after that. And so once I'm done with that energy sucking activity, then I'll get into another thing that makes me really happy and excited. And then it's more like a reward to myself. And or if you need those breaks, like the Instagram break, the TikTok break, you need to do a puzzle, you need to take a walk, reward yourself with those small breaks right after that horrible activity. And that will also help you to get the thing done, put it really early on your to-do list. And then the last pro tip I have for that one is understand yourself is huge in understanding your to-do list. Understand when you have the highest levels of energy. Now, that could be in the morning, right around 8 or 9 a.m. It could be right after lunch at that 1 o'clock hour, once you had the energy of lunch and all the things. It could be after your second coffee for the morning. So it could be right around 11 o'clock, whatever time that is for you. But understanding yourself and your levels of energy and where to place strategically those items or tasks on your to-do list will help you to like re-energize your own thought process on your to-do list. Typically, I'll take the things that I hate the most and throw them into my mornings. So my afternoons seem fun and high energy, and I hit the ground running on a weekend or the end of my day with something that I actually like to do. And I won't be at my computer for long periods of time because I know that I can't focus during those periods of time. So understand yourself. And this takes a little bit of time. So I would start now as seeing those trends and looking at like levels of energy, food that you need to eat, where you are in any given time. Do you have the space or the amount of screens in that area to provide you with the most positive work environment that you have? Start looking at your surroundings in those ways so that you can attack activities in the best, most predominant way that you can. Here are some quick resources if you wanted to take a screenshot of this or a photo of this that will actually help you with the resource side of things. We have pen and paper to-do list. That is my personal favorite. I actually carry this iPad around with me everywhere, and I have a GoodNotes app where it's just like me writing my to-do list every single morning. That way I can remove things, delete it, like this is my own personal notebook, but if you're a pen and paper person, absolutely do your thing. GoodNotes, if you are a tablet person or a laptop person, is great at all of the things that you can imagine in like your cell phone notes. You can add tasks that you can check off or uncheck if that's kind of more your speed. Use your calendar wisely. Schedule yourself some breaks. Usually what I will do in my day-to-day operation is I am a traveling leadership coach, so I don't have a whole lot of time, if I'm being 100% honest. So I will actually schedule buckets or hours of time where it's just me learning something new or me developing and growing for myself. And so I will take an hour of my time, I'll color code it in my calendar, block it off so my manager thinks that I'm actually doing something else, and set that time aside for myself to either gather my thoughts and breathe if I need to, and or work on some development. So I'll look up some KNETs or I'll look up some LinkedIn learning things, and I'll just really kind of grow myself and work on myself during those time periods. Allow yourself the grace and ability to do that. That will keep you from being stagnant in your process. It will keep your brain on your actual agenda and on your to-do things. And I know we have a lot of things to do, but if we don't invest in ourselves and give ourselves those 10-minute breaks, 15-minute breaks, 20-minute breaks, we'll start to see that like mentally we'll start to shut down and hit a wall. We'll start to burden ourselves with all of the outside tasks. So invest and pour in yourself, and your to-do list will kind of come full circle and come together. Set reminders and alarms. Like I mentioned, I have that little alarm clock, and it's super annoying, and it always will be annoying for me. But I know that I'm the person that needs like a auditory cue for me to stop doing the thing, or I'll continue on doing it until I'm burned out, or I'll get sidetracked and just get super distracted by other things. From the project prep and sharing tools as you work with companies, and as you start to navigate that professional space of tools that companies do use, we use things like Quip. Anyone here familiar with Quip? Just a raise of hand. Quip is essentially, think of a binder or Excel document all together, but it's a collaborative source. So I can have a Quip document, an Excel file that I share with all of you, and we can all write in that Quip together and organize ourselves together. We have Asana, which is a project planning tool where I can put in step by step how I want a project to be run, and then I can assign that to other people, and then we can work collaboratively on a project or plan to get goals accomplished. We have Playbook, which is similar to Asana in that you create a plan, you create ideas, you put it in there, and then you can delegate things out to other people. So if you say like, my project is to redecorate one of these rooms, I can put as an action item, I need a painter to paint this room a fun color. I can assign Miguel to be my painter and like delegate in that type of way. And then lastly, we have OneNote. OneNote is a binder where it is basically, think old school. You can change up the color of your pen, you can change up the design. It has little tabs on it so you can organize yourselves per subject, per topic, all the things. So if you're a little more old school, but you like your computer resources, OneNote is the place to be. And these are all on a suite that you can like buy these tools and access these tools on your own devices. But you'll start to see some of these terms and some of these tools be shown to you by your company, because this is how we kind of group ourselves together and work collaboratively with our teams. I will stop there, and I will again ask to see if anyone has any questions or to verify that I've covered all of the things. This is your time to ask me all the things. So even if it's a question about how I manage my time, being a traveling facilitator, I am all ears. Ask me all of the things. No question.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Jahida, with some of us who started in entry-level positions and internships, and when you talk about delegation, and don't really have a lot of people to delegate to, how can I practice delegation in a work setting? Because I know you talked about at home and family and things like that, but how can I practice delegation in a work setting when I'm entry level?
Great question. So in your processes, that actually is a really, really good question. An area manager asked me that question 2 days ago. So that's funny. When you are delegating, I don't want you to think of delegation as I'm giving something to a subordinate. And that's why I use the family example, because when we think delegation, we think we're giving off this task to a subordinate, we're handing this thing off to someone else. I want us to think of delegation and collaboration kind of similarly, especially when we're newer in the role. If we practice it when we're newer in the role, a peer per se, that maybe you can't get to this thing, it could be a simple conversation. Hey, I'm working on this spreadsheet. I didn't get a chance to do it. Have you done it before? Have you worked on it before? Can you take on this task? Like having those conversations to share work when someone has a little bit more space and time than you have, or when you're in that learning phase, will help you kind of guide those conversations in a way that it's not, I'm giving you something to work on, and it's, hey, help me clear some time on my schedule. Can you help me work on this thing? So framing the way that you look at delegation and how you ask for other people to help you, because the reality is delegating is asking for help, and asking for help so that you don't take on that task yourself, then that will help your mindset understand that delegating is more so help me. Can you work on this? Do you know how to do the thing? Have you done it before? Okay, perfect. Hopefully that answers your question, but practicing that, help me out, seeking out a peer. I need some assistance. It doesn't fit here, but it needs to get done. All of that will build that competence in delegating. Great question. Any other questions? When it comes to time management and as you are getting into your new roles, like I mentioned before, I recommend putting this in front of your leader and saying, am I on the right track? Is this how you would prioritize these types of things? Those types of conversations set you apart from other leaders in the room, from other employees that are sitting in the same places that you are. Having those real conversation about what priorities are and what they're not will change the game. Making sure that the leader is aligned with you and you're just not going off in your own world and prioritizing what you want to prioritize shows that you're invested in not only that role, that team, or that company, but it shows that you're invested in your own growth. And a lot of times leaders are not going to be ready for it, but they will be ready for those conversations because that's one of those exciting things, right? It's like having your kids love the same things that you love, right? And it's having like someone be invested in the things that you want to do and the goals that you have for your team. So just having that conversation, bringing this quadrant up to someone once you have a to-do list and you're kind of murky on where things should land. I have found the most impactful conversations to be like, this is how I would prioritize. Do you agree or disagree? And then they either agree and we work through it and we hash out what those differences are, or they agree and you're aligned and it's all guns ablaze and we're ready to go for the next thing. So just that conversation alone and having it helps a new leader or a new professional understand kind of like the lay of the land, if you will. What is priority is what I think actually what's happening in real time, and it helps you just stay on the same page. When you have good communication with your leader, you will go very far in your development. Go ahead, Juan.
Thank you. Thank you for all these tips and
Yeah.
developing all these ideas. I wanted to ask you if there are any other tips that you may have on how we can better schedule. When I was looking at my list, I had like 3 do nows and 8 schedules. So when it came to that, I'm like, okay, well, I have now 8 tasks that I need to schedule, but how can I better organize this so I'm more proactive, right? Because now I have this conundrum of like with 8 things that I have to schedule. So how do I prioritize that further?
Yeah, outside of understanding your energy levels and the different times in the day where you want to schedule those things, I would say first you would have to understand the lay of the land, how your organization that you're working with and for works. But I would take those things that I'm going to schedule and I would look at how it would either impact or be helpful to your day-to-day operation, to what you do on a daily basis. So for example, like if you have these 8 things to schedule, 2 of them align with this thing that you're going to do tomorrow, schedule them for tomorrow, right? So look to see where are the commonalities, where can I fit these things so that they mesh well together. And then if there's something that's out of the box, I would schedule that thing and then work at the rest of my priority list and see what are the things that I said that I can either delegate that might actually fit into that, right? So all the things that you have for the scheduling, I would schedule it to the best of your ability at first, understanding that you might have to reschedule things depending on time commitment, what tangents you go off on, what your leader asks you to do outside of that, because those things do come up. But schedule those things close to other things you have on your schedule, like the delegate thing. If you delegate something to a peer and you schedule something that's in that same area or on that same topic, you can then go check in on the person you delegated the info to and just like make your schedule work in a very productive way. For example, some of the things that I used to schedule was doing my audit walk around a building, for example. And one of the things that I always did was I checked in on a large amount of my associates and I would walk up to them and I would actually have that interaction. So now that I was already purposefully walking around the building, I added a few of those interactions into that. So it wasn't necessarily on my schedule list, but I added that into my scheduled thing. So I just checked those off of my to-do list as well. That's where the beauty is of playing with that list and bucketizing things. Because even if you don't schedule something, you could get to something if you're close in proximity, close in topic, close in thought process, and then remove those things. And then be okay with rescheduling those things that you scheduled originally that you just couldn't get to because things happen. That ability to pivot and navigate what that looks like independently is going to be the biggest tip that I can give you. I hope that helped.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Any other questions? As we are going into the workforce to be individual contributors, just know that no one has time management down, not even the most senior leaders at your site. So we're all kind of just feeling and working through what this looks like. As you get new roles, that the way you look at time management and the tasks on your to-do list may get bigger, they may get smaller, they may move all over the place. So time management is personal and independent on a day-to-day, a week-to-week, a role-to-role. So don't be stuck in one way of doing time management and one way of looking at it. Try a resource. If it doesn't work for you, try another resource. Try stacking things if that doesn't change up your day, and just keep practicing at what that harmony looks like for you, because I can guarantee you not even your most senior leaders are going to have time management down and in their back pocket and ready to go. So give yourselves grace in that process as well. Manage through it, work through it, talk about it, really discuss what those struggles are when you're scheduling your to-do list and making up your day-to-day schedule. Because vocalizing it removes the barriers that you do have. Vocalizing takes the walls away and allows you to have those full-fledged discussions. And then, because we're individual contributors, as you are learning your new peers, as you are getting into the workforce and you see someone is really good at their time management compared to yours, be vulnerable and open to listening to their tips and tricks as well. I know your peers are going to want to learn more about you. Take the opportunity to learn more about them and how they manage and how they prioritize, because there's not one clear path to time management. So I encourage you to look not only at your direct manager, but the peers that are in the roles that you want to be in and in the roles currently that you'll be sitting next to.
Thank you.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.